Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Purple Pill Philosophy is in another live roundtable discussing the passing of a man we interviewed not too long ago, Bill Ludlow.
Yes, it was an unfortunate passing. I don't know how old he was. I think he was about 50 something. And he died of stomach cancer. And it all happened very suddenly, from what I can tell.
That is
I
very
don't know how
tragic.
long. I don't know how long he had been suffering from it.
No,
He
I
did
mean,
mention it when on, or the why would he on the interview.
no, he hasn't done videos in a while.
Well, I don't think he's going to be doing videos for a while now either.
Brass jokes.
Yeah,
Even with a
but
dead man.
well, I figure, what's the harm? What's he going to do? Haunt me?
That might just happen.
But yes, I found out from his. Well, I mean, I found out online that he was sick, and then it was later on that I found out that he died.
Maybe
Uh,
he didn't know he had it, because that happens a lot, actually.
yeah. I mean,
We,
apparently, he just it just got worse real quick, and he just passed away like nothing.
Ew.
like some cancers take a instantly to kill someone, others it takes longer, but we were just notified that very morning, and then he died later during that day.
Yeah, his son put up, on his Facebook that he had passed away. Uh, you know, and I could say this: it was a very good thing being able to talk to Bill Ludlow. I think he was a very nice guy.
Yeah, he
He
was he was one of the live and let live atheists.
Yeah, and and he did contribute a lot to like getting evolution taught out there,
And slapping down younger creationists in the process.
especially guys like Kent Hovind.
Yeah, but he also went after Hugh Ross and them for because they're not younger creationists, but they don't really buy into evolution like that.
Well, macro evolution.
Yeah, same difference.
Yeah, they believe in micro. Well, I mean, hell, even young Earth creationists, for the most part, believe in micro evolution.
Yeah, but Hovind was his main target and his buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah. I didn't really know the guy, but from that interview we did with him, he seemed like a really nice guy.
yeah. It was very sad that it all happened like that. I think that I talked to him a few times, like after his death. I know recently he got into some sort of feud with Steve McRae over the whole non sequitur incident.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? What happened there?
He got tired of hearing Steve bitch and moan about it, but which I would have done also if I were in his position, because I'm like a loan shark when it comes to money. Like if I don't get paid back on the due day, I will haunt them the rest of their life until they give me my money back.
Yeah, that would piss me off too.
Well, I know because the guy that owes you $5 for third grade, you're still going after him.
$5 is nothing, but $5,000—that's another thing.
Yeah, he was
Well,
gonna use that. He was gonna use that money to get his pay for his daughter's tuition or something along those lines.
well, now his daughter can just do what every other girl does for her tuition.
Oh,
Brass.
he might be listening to this, so
I was just gonna say that she has to take a job at a steel mill.
yeah, right.
My mother worked at my mother worked at a steel mill.
That's lovely. Which one?
Bethlehem Steel.
No, I mean which woman?
My mother.
All right. So yeah, I mean, let's see. I remember when Bill came onto our show. One of the good things is that he actually was calling out who we call anti-theist on the show as well.
Yeah, he was the live and let live type.
Yeah, he was saying how they're not really doing much of a service for science and just spreading hate for Christianity just to do it.
Yeah.
And Bill was just very much. I remember we talked about Neanderthals as well.
Yeah.
So about you.
Uh,
Huh?
you talked about Neanderthals. We got into some things like of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I actually learned some interesting facts about the T-Rex.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep, they were more bird than reptile.
Yep.
Well, that explains why they're related to the chicken.
Yeah, they're closest.
That's just common knowledge by now. It should be.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is we don't really know how feathered the T-Rex actually was, or if they were at all.
It
Yeah,
probably
most people
looked
are
like
used
a giant.
to the
Probably
image.
looked like a. Go ahead.
I was gonna say most people are used to the whole Jurassic Park image from the movie.
Yeah. The sharp tooth.
Well, I mean, you have to remember, according to Kent Hovind and Ken Ham, they were completely vegetarians.
Oh yeah, they ate watermelons and everything.
I mean, their teeth were to grind watermelons.
Yep.
I'm like, yes, I can totally believe that that's what the hell they were doing. With they had a stronger bite force than an alligator.
Yeah, in the real life, they probably look like a giant roadrunner from hell.
Oh yeah, I mean, we know they had feathers on the bottom of them because that's where we noticed quill markings, I believe. But we don't.
And the funniest thing is that the flying dinosaurs were more reptile than bird.
That's actually is pretty funny. You know what I always wondered though?
What?
Like, how did they evolve to fly? I mean, I would imagine like what did they all just collectively like jump off cliffs and flap their wings and eventually one of them just
Like
survive?
flap their arms like a bird and just fly and fly. Oh, Rob left.
All right, he can come back in. But
Eventually.
what I found pretty funny about the whole sorry, something threw me off. All right, but yeah, so I remember it was also funny when we got into Kent Hovind. We had said he saw Kent Hovind sees the Flintstones and thinks it's a documentary.
That's that's Aaron Ross' slogan, but he also worked with him for a while.
Yeah.
Purely for the evolution purposes.
Well, yeah, and that's pretty much the only good purpose Aaron Ross has.
Yep.
Outside of that, he completely sucks. But yeah, I was thinking, I know that I didn't even know Bill had a son until just recently.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me that he had a son because I think he was about 50 years old, and I think his son's very young.
He's still gone too soon.
Yeah, it was. I mean, 50s is pretty young.
Now,
Yeah,
anyway.
I have a grandfather that had stomach cancer. They had to remove half his stomach to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I wonder if Bill actually had that done.
I don't know.
Yeah. I thought it was just, it just all happened. I mean, especially now, of how convenient, like how it all just happened right in the middle of this feud between him and Steve.
Well, it wasn't much of a feud. He just got tired of Steve talking about bringing it up, and like don't bother me with his shit. Or did he actually take sides in that?
Who? Oh,
Yep.
not Bill didn't take like sides in it. He said that he agreed with Steve that Steve was screwed over, but he was tired of them doing that.
Yeah.
Like tired of him bringing it up. It told me to click on the link again or something.
Yeah.
I did. I clicked the screen. Let's see.
Yeah, it happens. Somebody's hacking into Comrade's Russian bot system again.
Yep. It actually has much more than you would think.
Pretty much.
All right. I'm calling Robert again. So, yeah.
Oh, here comes the noise. Comrade?
All right. Everything good?
Comrade?
All right. Well, he'll start talking when he has to. All right. Well, whatever. We can still go on.
I
All
forgot
right.
what
So, what is some memories you can say of Bill?
You what?
What are some memories you could think of with Bill?
I only talked to him a few times, and like I said, he's the live and let live type who realized that anti-theism is irrational.
Yeah. And that was a pretty good thing that I found that he was very quick to go after them, and he was like, his main thing is he just wanted to teach people evolution, and he talked about how he got a job in museums.
Yeah, that's cool. Like he was an atheist all his life, so he never really concept of God never made any sense to him. Just like godless universe doesn't make any sense to us, but so he had no particular axe to grind.
Yeah. So I thought, I didn't know he was an atheist. I mean, I may have forgotten, but I didn't know he was an atheist his entire life.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me really. He does seem like that would be the type he'd be the type of guy to do that. Eh, but I mean, what I found funny is that he had he had a good sense of humor as well.
Oh yeah, he's usually had an amusing approach to taking down Hovind, especially.
Yeah, and what's so sad is this is like the second skeptic to die in like this year.
Yeah, the other one was Psy something.
Yeah. No, we can't hear you, Robert Freed or Bob Freed. Hmm.
Yeah.
Let me see. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Maybe if this works.
He says he's unmuted.
Alright, let's see if this works. Alright, this works. Alright, this works. Let's see. Oops, trying to find it. Yeah,
You hear you a little bit.
trying to find the stupid, oh wait. Alright, let's see. I don't know. It's not working with it. Oh. Let's see. And it's not letting me add anyone. Well, I mean, it's not letting me go to the settings.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what happened and like threw me off for no reason.
Well, it's probably the Russian bots again.
Okay.
Communist bot.
They really seem to take a very strong hatred towards you when they're not meddling in our elections.
Yeah.
They were probably.
Especially since they're in California.
Oh yeah. That place hasn't collapsed yet.
Oh,
Well-
California is like, it's like Civil War ready to happen.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Becoming more like a third world country now. Francisco in particular.
Yeah, you have to beware of the needles in San Francisco.
And shit lying in the streets and
It's literally a shithole.
Yeah, with a bunch of homeless people.
Who will shank you too if you have like $5 on you?
Well, I mean that happens everywhere.
I mean, it used to be so classy like 20 years ago. Like, what happened?
Democrats.
The shit libs gone power.
That's what Democrats and socialism is what happened to it.
Yeah.
Then you got fundagelicals on the other side of the extreme and other shitholes like Alabama.
I mean, what's funny is that I've always told people that theocracy is sort of, and like I tell the lack theist about this, like because they always say that there's a theocracy coming up in America. I always tell them a theocracy is really going to happen one way or the other. It's just which religion do you rather prefer, Christianity or feminism?
Yeah. And also Alabama, it is a shithole, but it's not the dumpster fire that California is.
Yeah, but that's the thing is we expect Alabama to be like that because
Yeah,
they're
because
just
it's in the deep south.
they're just. I mean, the entire place is one bloodline.
Yeah.
They've always been
Whereas California. California has this whole image that they're the Golden State and they're this modernized utopia.
It's so hard.
More
I
noise.
said it's so hard to find a murderer in Alabama because the blood's all the same and there's no dental records.
God's engineer went apeshit on that.
I remember it was funny because I went after Godless Engineer on that. That's what he said.
Oh shit! I forgot to invite Jackson Wade tonight.
What the fuck is?
He was a friend of Bill's.
Trying to find that stupid. Trying to find the stupid world. It's not letting me do anything. All right, let's see. Nope.
What happened?
I don't know.
Keep saying you took a snapshot.
Oh, I took a snapshot.
Apparently. Sorry, people. Technical difficulties allure.
All right. All right, that's pretty good. I got a new book.
Your comrade?
Yeah, are you here, Comrade Dimitri?
Sorry, I don't know what's happening. I'm not a big fan of the Skype. It's like really fucking with my computer.
Well, Skype doesn't apparently like you either.
Yeah.
But yes, so you said you wanted to contact Jackson Weedy.
Yeah, I was thinking of inviting him tonight. Forgot to.
He would be more of a friend of Bill than us.
Yeah.
I remember that Bill said that he was starting a website in order to host debunking young Earth creationist content and teaching evolution.
He already does that. It's creationsciencefiction.com.
Who's
That-
eating snacks?
All right. I'm just trying to open this little package I got.
No, it's okay. I eat snacks all the time too.
Oh, it's not snacks. I'm ripping open this box, trying to get the book out.
So
Alright.
what were we talking about before the interruption again?
So I was saying I forgot to invite Jackson Wade to this conversation. He was more closer to Bill. We interviewed him once on this channel before.
Alright. Got it. Yeah, the book I got was Columbus by Felipe Fernandez Armestes.
Oh, about Christopher Colombo.
Yeah.
Nice.
Christopher Colombo. That's his real name.
Nice. What? How does it portray him as? Because I know he's a really contested figure right now.
Well, Felipe Fernandez Armesto he's a Catholic historian.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a Catholic British historian who, I mean, he just sort of tells it as it is with Columbus, as far as I can't even mute because I don't know how to.
So basically, it's not as black and white.
I
Oh
mean,
my God.
Armistice takes into account that was that he wasn't he wasn't a good guy by our standards.
No, he was quite an asshole by even their standards.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he debunks some myths about him being genocidal and him really encouraging the slave holding nature of Indians.
Yeah, no, this woke bullshit about them being happy, peace-loving tree huggers who were genocided and enslaved for no reason.
Well, most of the Indians' death came from disease, like 93% of it.
That should be common knowledge. Oh, he left again.
I'm not even bothering with it. He can come back. But Yeah.
Yeah, is it kind of like Galileo goes to jail?
Yeah, it just goes over a sort of complete biography of it. He says calling it a suicide really, I mean, not a suicide, a genocide, isn't really accurate because his intention wasn't to kill off the Indians. In fact, he wanted to keep them alive. Although, to be fair, the reason why he wanted to keep them alive is not the most noblest purposes. He wanted to keep them alive, some of them at least, so he could have them as slaves. Well,
Yeah.
not really slaves per se. I mean, you can call them servants of the state. They were sort of like serfs. No one really owned them per se.
No, that still has a lot more to go, but the Galileo myth is still being repeated, even though it's been thoroughly debunked.
Well, yeah, of course. Like Galileo for one was not tortured.
No.
Like
And
they wouldn't have tortured him anyway because at the time he was old as dirt.
He wasn't put under house arrest because of his theories went against the biblical teachings. He was put under house arrest because he was a douche.
Well, he had an Italian temper,
Yeah.
and
He's a guy who will not stand to be wrong. And
well,
the science at the time was against him. I mean, it's nothing anybody could do about it. It was the science of the day.
I mean, yeah. I mean, well, here's the thing: he never demonstrated that heliocentrism was true.
Yeah.
Um,
We know that now, but it wasn't wasn't the conclusions of the day.
well, I mean, it's not even that it was the conclusion of the day; it was that his entire model was bullshit, even for their time.
Yeah.
Like he made some good, like, predictions in terms of his model made certain good predictions, but many of it, had errors in it that were even noticed back in their time. Like, for example, with the tides.
Hey, comrade, can you hear us?
If you don't say anything for a couple seconds, we're gonna assume that the Russians finally got to you. 5, 4,
Oh, you can hear us.
1.
You can hear us within the gulag. They silenced you.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't talk.
All right. Well, that's always good. Says.
Oh yeah, and we also discussed Darwin when Bill was on here.
Well, yeah. And I had brought up the fact that how this whole narrative that Christians were automatically against evolution when it first came out is bullshit.
It was It was mainly just the Seventh-day Adventists that were the instigators that set up this false dichotomy that still persists today.
Well, it wasn't just them. I mean,
They play a major role in it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, another people that played a major role into it was guys like Thomas Huxley or Darwin's Bulldog.
Oh yeah, the guy that coined agnosticism.
Yeah, the many of Darwin's friends who were atheists, they they also made this whole thing between science and evolution and religion, and you know, and that's also what did it. And it's one that still persists to this day with guys like Jerry Coyne.
Yeah, he should just stick to what he does best, biology, and leave it at that.
Yeah, but as these guys know, they don't really have a good record of just keeping things to themselves because they're making money off of this.
And the has-been Richard Dawkins, who recently wrote a atheist book for kids, like How Low Can You Go? Like,
Who did?
turns out his blunders in there were We're not that much different than in that piece of shit, the God Delusion.
Well, yeah, he said that the Council of Nicaea established the canon for the New Testament.
God, I've heard that before too. So, what were you saying about Columbus?
We were saying that the whole thing about him being a genocidal maniac is sort of bullshit because his intention was never to kill off the Indians.
Well, he was brutal, but at the same time, most of the peoples of the New World died from the Eurasian diseases brought in from the Old World that they had no immunity to. You have to read a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel to understand that.
Well, yeah,
that came out in '98, right?
I mean,
yeah, Jared Diamond.
Well, what's funny is Columbus was such a dumbass in some ways because, like, back in Columbus's day, they had strict rules on slavery. It had to abide by just war causes,
Mhm.
where they were only allowed to really enslave people per se if they were either incapable of coming to the Gospels or they were, actively against it and stuff like that. But Columbus himself admitted in like one of his journals or whatever and writings that the Indians were more than welcoming to the gospel.
Yeah,
And
some even infused the gospel, like when the Spaniards went into Mexico or Azteca.
and they weren't hostile at all. He said that they were, willing to be good workers, and they were also not hostile to the Gospels. And once he said that, he lost all justification for enslaving them.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately why he got in trouble with the Queen and King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's a whole issue with Columbus Day right now.
Well, don't Indigenous People Day.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about that because I am half native.
Well,
As
Ingen, Ingen is more Native American than Elizabeth Warren is.
I
Yep.
know that is.
she offends us.
Well, I mean, I think Bill would probably say at this point that we're all sort of like, if you go back far enough, we're all somewhat Native American.
We're all somewhat.
Well, we're all African.
Yeah, African.
So, I mean,
And then we went from Columbus to discussing Galileo and how the myth still persists despite all evidence to the contrary.
Oh yeah, I had an interesting discussion about that with my physical science teacher at college because I have to take the general education courses too. But we because he brought that up as part of the physics aspect of the unit, and he brought up Galileo and the myth about the Catholic Church and him, and so I got into a really interesting discussion. I recommended him different books like Galileo Goes to Trial.
Galileo goes to jail.
Yeah, goes to jail.
I mean, he wasn't tortured or anything like that because it would have been against the Inquisition rules at the time. Because
what are you talking about? They chained him up and they whipped him until he confessed.
Does that sound like torture, really, or is that just BDSM?
Severe BDSM.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have tortured him because that was against the Inquisition rules at the time. Because they had rules against beating the elderly, and Galileo was very old at the time of his trial.
Yeah.
And also his last words was also a myth, but it does move.
Oh, you're talking about like he supposedly said that under his breath that the sun or the Earth went around the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he could never demonstrate that the heliocentrism was true.
Yeah.
What's funny is that people always make it seem like Copernicus was like this atheist, rational thinker in his lab all by himself.
He wasn't atheist by any means.
He was good friends with the Pope at the time, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. Like, in fact, people say that he waited until his death to release his book because he was afraid that the he'd be persecuted for his beliefs. But if that was the case, why was the Pope? Why was his book dedicated to the Pope?
Why didn't he renounce God in his book?
Yeah, and here's what's funny: like, if he was so much of an atheist or whatever, like his entire they haven't clearly read his book because it's filled with theology.
Some of them even say the same about Newton, even though Newton thought atheists were morons.
Well, he rejected the Trinity.
Yeah, he was a non-Trinitarian, but
he was an Arian.
He thought even the Trinity were more rational than atheists.
That's not really saying much.
Which would have a huge influence on the dais of the American Enlightenment.
Oh yeah, the Enlightenment. Yet another myth that persists in anti-theist village atheist land.
Yeah.
Well, what people seem to think about it is that they don't seem to realize is that there was no singular enlightenment at one specific time. There was multiple movements that are associated with the Enlightenment.
Yeah, there was and based on different nationality too. There was the English Enlightenment, the French Enlightenment, the German Enlightenment, which include people like Immanuel Kant.
Yeah, it was kind of like the Renaissance, but the Italian Renaissance, the English Renaissance, yeah.
Russia was under an Enlightenment ruler known as Catherine the Great.
Oh yeah, isn't she the woman that had a bunch of sex?
Hey, there's a myth about her dying by fucking a horse.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about.
Didn't she die in the toilet?
I don't know. I mean, I know that the horse myth is a myth. That's a misconception, but because she died of I'm trying to think, what was it?
Old age.
It was like some disease as you get older. You die from it.
All the sex she was having.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, what she was known for doing is inviting foreign rulers over and just fucking them.
Yeah, well, she was German. She was a Volga German.
Well, yeah, and us Germans, that sort of thing.
Napoleon.
It's funny because the Germans always. Oh, she died of a stroke. That's what happened. She died of a stroke.
Napoleon was known for doing that also, fucking all these foreign women.
That's why syphilis.
Yeah, she died of a stroke, but there's a misconception that she died from horse fucking.
Yeah.
But you know what's really funny though is that you always tend to notice that the Germans always try to dominate Europe. Not just in the 20th century during World War I and World War II, but even during the time of the monarchy, they would try to have all these German monarchs intermarry with different other European monarchs so they could rule them over. That's what happened in Russia with Catherine the Great.
Well, yeah,
and Napoleon always got pissed off that he was being cucked by his favorite wife, even though he was fucking all these foreign women whenever they came to him, and they fathered bastard children.
What's actually pretty interesting is that when Napoleon died, he had his face put into clay, so we actually do know what Napoleon looked like.
Nice.
And he was average height, obviously.
Actually, he was slightly taller.
Really?
Yeah, I think he was 5'9".
Yeah, which was actually slightly taller for the day. There's a huge misconception that he was short, and stubby.
That was British propaganda because you get the stereotype of the short-tempered man.
Yeah, short man syndrome, they call it. Which Mussolini did suffer from because he was actually short.
Well, so was Stalin.
Stalin was short? I always thought he was kind of large.
I thought he was tall.
No, he was short.
Sure you're not confusing him for Mao?
No, he was very short. But he was actually very insecure about it. And what he would do is he would put bricks or stuff in his shoes so he could be taller.
Oh wow. Yeah, and it does seem like he dressed thick too, because it looks like he's wearing a lot of different clothing underneath his jacket, his communist garbs.
Do you ever remember?
Speaking of communists, they're They're trying to do what Mao did. They're trying to do this in Hong Kong now.
Oh yeah, the Hong Kong protests. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like I was expecting like there to be another Tiananmen Square massacre.
Anyway, we're out in the weeds.
Yeah.
And while your computer was messing up, we also got to talking about the myths surrounding Darwin.
Oh yeah, Darwin's interesting. He went on the journey on the Beagle.
Yeah, also about his friends at the time. This false dichotomy between God and evolution was only propagated by Seventh-day Adventists and a few other people.
It was also a product of the Scopes trial.
Hey, Brass, where you at?
Oh, I'm right here.
Oh,
Stalin was 5'7", I believe.
Oh wow, that is actually short.
Yeah.
Especially when he ruled in the
that's
30s.
just wasn't Hitler short?
Not sure.
He was weak, you know.
Hitler always seemed like a little man.
Yeah.
Was Hitler.
Huh?
5'9" was Hitler.
Oh, so he was slightly. He was about the size of Napoleon.
Yeah.
I know Pol Pot. He was like really weak and pathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Pol Pot is Asian, so of course he'd be short.
Oh yeah, and according to the documented liar Mike Sherlock, he was a Buddhist.
Oh, that is so moronic. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, to be honest, he'd still be an atheist then.
Non-theist, but
Yeah.
but in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge, virtually every Buddhist monk was killed by the Khmer Rouge regime. They actually took the anti-religious campaign in Cambodia under Pol Pot further than even the Soviets did in under Stalin.
No, but they didn't go further than Mao did.
Oh, Mao went pretty far too, causing the Dalai Lama to flee China or Tibet.
Pol Pot
and he said the quote that Hitchens plagiarized: "Religion poisons everything."
Yeah, he said that to the Dalai Lama in 1958, the year before he was forced to leave during the whole Tibetan Buddhist uprising of '59.
What I always found funny is that people say that Japan is so secular nowadays.
So there's still a lot of spirituality in Japan too.
But you know when they first became secular officially?
1945.
Yep.
Oh,
I
yeah,
have too.
Yeah, because of the Constitution that was imposed by the U.S.
And secular does not mean atheist. So they like to say that the emperor finally announced I'm not a god, and I bet you most people were like, no.
Well, I mean, here's what's funny is that as early as 2006, I believe, it was common for the politicians in Japan to just I think one of the politicians in Japan to just say, we still have to accept that Japan is this divine nation.
Well, yeah.
Well, there's still a lot of the cult of Amaterasu is still very huge in Japan.
And not one building in Tokyo is not one building built there isn't blessed by a Shinto priest.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to say that they're secular is sort of a misnomer because, for most of Japan's history, they didn't have this divide between religion and politics.
State. Yeah.
In Christianity in particular, they've always had a hostility towards Christianity.
Not recently.
Well, not recently, no, because that was almost 25 years ago. There was this terrorist act.
Oh, yeah. About Shiriko?
Shoko Asahara.
Yeah, that's that was the Shiriko cult.
Yeah.
Well,
it was a mixture of apocalyptic Christianity and Buddhism.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't even call it Buddhism or Christianity. I'll just call it a weird Japanese new age religion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what was funny is I remember atheists always tell me, like, name me one people that committed mass suicide bombings and were atheists. I said, all right, what about Japanese people and with the Blitzkrieg? Well, not that's Germans things. I mean,
Germans.
Blitzkriegs were a German thing.
Kamikazes.
Yeah, kamikaze. That's what they were.
And they also have a force dedicated to suicide.
Well, yeah, but that's not really their own thing. That's just sort of happened.
And there's
Yeah, you all remember Logan Paul, how he went to the Japan suicide force and found a dead body, and like, oh, what an idiot.
Oh yeah, and you also see the parallels between Americans screwing over the Kurds now and back in the day.
Well, the Kurds have always been screwed over.
Yeah, like in the 80s, like they were oppressed back then too, and America was like, "Well, let them deal with their own shit."
Yeah, that was by the Ba'ath regime, Saddam Hussein in the 80s.
Yep.
The Kurdish.
What's funny is that they said, well, Saddam Hussein was such a devout Muslim. I'm like,
Nope, he was secular.
well,
Baathism was pretty secular.
he was Muslim. There's no questioning that. But to say he was devout is sort of not true, because it wasn't really until like just about the end of his life when he started even really bringing up God.
Yeah, and Baathism as a political ideology is in total opposition to the Wahhabis and Islamist movements, which are the religious right over there in the Middle East.
He's more comparable to Trump now.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I would say.
He was a secular ruler, because the very militant religious Muslims in the day hated him because he wasn't actively religious.
Oh yeah, people argue that it was Iraq was better off under his rule than it is now, because he kept all the terrorists in line.
Well, I think that's a little. I mean, I don't know what to say. That it's true that after the U.S. invasion in 2003, there was a massive civil war that went on for almost a decade, and then you had the rise of ISIS. But I don't know what. I mean, I'm not justifying the U.S. invasion, but Saddam Hussein was pretty gnarly in terms of democide and genocide.
I was talking about their economic state.
Yeah.
Well, even
the economics he screwed up really bad in Iraq.
Not saying that he was probably better than with the alternatives now.
Yeah, but even ISIS killed 15,000 people within a year. Saddam Hussein, his regime massacred hundreds of thousands of not only just Iraqi Arabs, but also Kurds and what are the other people? Madans, Marsh Arabs, who are the descendants of the original Babylonians.
Yeah, well, a good thing about Saddam Hussein is that he actually did go out of his way to protect Christians.
Yeah, but really, again, that's because the country's ideology, Baathism at the time, was secular. So,
well, he went out of his way to protect Christians because he understood what it was like to be a minority.
Yeah, that's true, because he was Shia, wasn't he?
I believe so, or whatever. And he understood what it was like to be a minority, so that's why many Christians after his death mourned him.
And there's also another, along with Martin Luther King and Gandhi, another Jesus figure that totally is not who he was presented to be. Mandela.
Martin Luther King Jr. is hardly a Jesus figure, seeing as he committed adultery. And there's even evidence that he watched a woman get raped.
He also plagiarized 65% of his doctorate.
Yeah, I was about to refer to Mandela.
Mm-hmm.
He was a communist. Even though he's even got a statue in Romania.
Yeah, well, I will say this. The apartheid regime was very unfair to the blacks. So that's what many of these black separatist or nationalist groups look to the Soviet Union. And that's where he became a communist, essentially.
Yeah, but he wasn't placed in jail because he was a freedom fighter. He was a communist and a terrorist.
Yeah. Didn't his wife? They had a really brutal method of killing other blacks. Yeah, the tire execution.
Oh, she's a vicious cunt.
Yeah, they had the tire execution where they would take even like black dissidents and put a tie around them and gas, light them on fire or something like that.
Yeah, it's called necklacing. It's terrible.
Necklacing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And I don't say this to defend the apartheid regime, but that's not right.
No.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Nelson Mandela was a terrorist by all means. Although, then again, most presidents are.
One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I like those whitewashed movies of Mandela, like saying that he was, well, not literally whitewashed, but present him as this hero who was kind of like Martin Luther King or Gandhi, and he was placed in prison for a very long time.
Gandhi actually had like really racist views towards blacks.
Yep.
Very racist.
well, that and Gandhi, he liked to sleep naked next to his family, like some of the women in his family.
Oh, he walked in public naked.
Well, that's fine. Everyone in India does that.
I was gonna say that's uncommon in India, or
Yeah.
common in India.
So I mean, like, no, but what he used to do is he used to sleep in bed next to, like, I believe he with his niece. He slept in bed naked with her and just touched her. Like, he said he wanted to test his chastity.
So he basically fondled his niece.
You won't find that in any of Gandhi movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he could have always been Catholic.
You Christians are so unlike your Christ, but I like your Christ.
Yeah, says a guy who like really had racist views towards blacks.
And this also really pisses me off. Like these black anti-theists on Facebook always stressing about Christianity being the white man's religion and emphasizing the role in slavery and whatnot, even though the first Christians outside the Roman Empire were black Ethiopians.
I was gonna say it was they were our faith, which was Eastern Orthodoxy.
I mean, well, here's what's funny is, like, this whole notion of racism back in their time was non-existent.
You mean
like,
during the transatlantic period?
Well, no, I mean back in the Old Testament and the New Testament, racism really wasn't a thing.
No. The way we think of race now is largely a product of the 19th century.
Yeah, scientific racism.
A product of the Enlightenment that new atheists like to fetishize about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because here's what the thing was about the Enlightenment. They wanted to, like, they had to face this inevitable conflict, like this cognitive dissonance, because they wanted to say all men, all humans are endowed with reason and, are inherently worth with dignity. But then they came to that conclusion, but then they had to realize that would also include slaves and women, and they didn't want to admit that they were humans or people. So they said, they had to make some sort of distinguishing thing between women and slaves in terms of rationality and stuff. So they just considered them others.
Yeah.
And they noticed that, they made that's when all the comparisons between black and black people came into.
Yeah, they would rank like the highest of the most evolutionary trend was the white man, particularly that of Northern European stock, and then on the bottom was like the gorilla, but they would show the black as like just above the gorilla. Was there from their point of view.
When you hear people talk about how good the 50s were, then you got some SJWs are saying, oh yeah, well, oppressive of women and discriminating blacks. Let's go back to those times. Like, they make it sound like black people were miserable back then.
Well, some were, but...
Yeah, some were.
But as a historian, we take what is good from the past and try to apply it to the present and try to, not avoid the bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, people also have to admit,
in the 30s and 40s, like, they seem pretty happy, much of them.
What we also have to admit is that we also, when we do as historians, is that we try to compare people to the standards of their day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that we can't have an opinion and say that they were wrong on a certain issue, but we can, like from our present perspective, say they were wrong, but we also have to take into consider their cultural context and what information that they had at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I always laughed at like these Antifa types who they'll post a meme like, we're gonna fight those Nazis like the men of World War II did. I'm thinking like, you realize the U.S. Army troops of World War II probably were like really ultra conservative and really, what you would call politically incorrect these days.
Well, yeah, I mean, in World War II, the United States actually had what do they call it? A dehumanization program where they
The Japanese, yeah.
Japanese. In fact, they the program was so successful that they had American soldiers coming home with Japanese people's skulls.
Yeah, yeah, and in the '80s, the Reagan administration they try to reconcile with Japan, and there would be like these exchanges. They would try to get American GI remains from Japan, sent back to the U.S. and then in exchange the Americans who took like Japanese soldiers' skulls, they would send those back to Japan.
I imagine this. I could imagine there's probably some old United States old veteran who still has one of his Japanese skulls that he keeps as a souvenir.
Oh yeah, I would imagine that too. He's probably not going to give it up either. He's like, "This is my skull."
He's probably drinking vodka and stuff out of it.
Yeah, I killed them Japanese. I ain't going to give this up.
Isn't it fucked up that America seems to get involved in situations where they're not needed and neglect the situations where they are needed?
Well, I mean, I've always said this. The government tends to only solve problems by accident.
Like you got all those wars in Africa, like in Somalia and Zimbabwe, and
like I mentioned this online. The United States government tends to only solve problems by accident, like social ills by accident. Like they'll pass a law intending for one thing, and it just so happens that this law indirectly ends up curing a societal ill. So it's completely by accident for the most part.
Who are you both voting for in the next election?
2020?
Yeah.
I have no clue. I'd have to see who the Democrats put up. Because I do like Tulsi Gabbard, but they're really trying to hammer her as a Russian bot.
Well, I mean, she is for reparations.
Yeah, but I will say a lot of this stuff you tend to notice she doesn't get on until like much later. So that tells me that she has to kind of appease a lot of these newer kind of younger progressives that came in November of 2018. Like the squad type, like AOC and Ilhan Omar.
Oh, so
she does have to appeal to those type.
AOC is a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and so Tulsi Gabbard does have to appeal to those new progressive types.
Doesn't Tulsi Gabbard have a cult of personality, or is that some other contender?
I'm pretty sure other people have cult of personality, but...
Well, I mean, the thing is that I'm trying to think of his name. The only person the Democrats that I would even like to see as president would probably be Joe Biden.
He's still alive.
Because, I mean, it's not that I like his policies per se, but he's the only moderate.
Yeah, well, I think Yang is pretty moderate, and I think Tulsi Gabbard's moderate, but all the others are like fucking crazy.
even Sanders.
Yeah, well, Sanders, I don't know. I mean, he's not a third world socialist like AOC is.
Well, I mean, you have to remember, Bernie Sanders is so freaking old.
Yeah, he had a heart attack recently.
Ain't he the same age as Biden?
No, like. I remember what's fun. I made a joke online about that. I said, Bernie says, no one knows the Constitution better than I do. And I said, yeah, of course, because you were there when it was first being signed.
I've heard people try to say that the founding fathers were actually our first socialists.
And AOC was like, she's trying to scare people into voting for her, and they exploit this little kid like from the United Nations.
Oh, Greta Thunberg.
That shit.
Greta Thunberg is her name.
Yeah, remember she's a little girl and is autistic, so you can't criticize her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Once you get up on a public stage like that, I don't care how young you are, you're prone to criticism. Now, do I want to make fun of her because she has those mental illness? No, but I'm going to say she's wrong.
And because her parents are actors.
Yeah, it's actually your parents' fault. I actually blame, and it's kind of funny because she was on that stage saying, you guys are robbing me of my childhood. How dare you? And I'm like, it's not us who are robbing you your childhood. It's your goddamn parents.
Sounded like a scripted speech to me. Like I
It
don't.
was because she had another speech and she totally choked up and without her
It
script.
sounded so theatrically acted.
It was.
You've stolen my hopes and dreams. How
Yeah, how
dare you?
dare you? Yeah, yeah.
I remember.
Like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's so funny with her. Like, I remember what's funny is that Trump actually met her, but he walked just right past her.
oh, really?
He also said on Twitter, "This seems like a nice, happy girl who has some."
Oh yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
Love or hate Trump, he says what's on his mind.
Yeah.
Well,
that's one thing I actually like about Trump. He isn't one of these like, huh?
I said that's not really saying much because Trump doesn't really have much of a mind to have something on.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, man, he's such a religious man.
No, I think like I said, I think he's like a religious ignoramus. But one thing that always annoys me though is that people always compare him to
He's
Barack
not religious
Obama
by any standard.
Yeah, but people always compare Trump to Barack Obama and say, "Oh, Obama's a much more moral family man character." But like, okay, but Trump was not going up against Obama in 2016. He was going up against Hillary Clinton, who was married to a rapist and covered up for Bill Clinton's rapes.
I mean, it's not rape.
Yeah, it was like affairs.
But he's been accused of rape too,
Yeah.
Bill Clinton.
Who hasn't at this point?
That's true, though. We live in the age of Me Too, so.
Well, I mean, you have to remember, like, Monica Lewinsky became famous from that.
Yep.
Yeah, blowjob gate, as they called it.
Well, I mean, can you imagine that? Like, you're the parents of like Monica Lewinsky, and that's what your daughter is famous for.
Giving a blowjob to the president.
Well, I mean, like they always say, sometimes you have to give head in order to get ahead.
Yeah, didn't one of the Democrat contenders fuck her way to office?
I mean, that's pretty much all of them.
I don't know which one. I don't. Was it Ilhan Omar? She had an affair.
No.
Did you guys hear about that?
Wasn't it her or Harris?
Well, yeah. Ilhan Omar actually did have an affair, and
she blamed the Republicans for screwing up her marriage.
I mean, and it was even worse is that because it's her brother that she married anyway.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into the country. I heard.
And at least now she's free to see other siblings.
Maybe.
All right. Well, we've been going on for an hour. Would you guys like to have any last words to say about Bill Ludlow?
Yeah, we gotten out in the weeds, but he was a fun guy to talk to, and it's a shame we can't anymore.
Yeah, I wanted to get to know him more, because he did seem like a really nice guy. I said I was Eastern Orthodox to him, and he didn't say, "Oh, you're just one of those brainwashed Christians," but on that interview, so I really appreciated that. So yeah, Bill Ludlow, rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a very nice guy. When I talked to him, he was very smart, clearly educated on matters of evolution. He, his work will definitely live on in the hearts and minds of many people that, were influenced by him. I hope his family is able to, I wish them a speedy recovery while they're obviously going through this hard time. Like I said, he was always a good guy to me. It sucks that his last days had to be over this stupid feud with Steve McRae. But, now that that's all behind everything, I think, that hopefully his work will be able to live on, and more people can start debunking young Earth creationists.
For not for the wrong reasons, like as a polemical attack on Christianity or theism in general.
Yeah, I know. Just to debunk young earthers.
And fuck Ken Hovind.
Oh yeah, fuck Ken Hovind. Say it, Engine.
Huh?
Say it.
Say what?
Fuck Ken Hovind.
Fuck Ken Hovind.
Good.
Fuck Ken Ham and Cheese also.
Fuck Ken Ham.
All right. Well, that is all for today. This is Mr. Brass.
And History Net, soon to be Purple Pill Philosophy.
And yeah, this is Purple Pill Philosophy saying goodbye and get wise.
That's it on you.